Welcome to WebLizard Cert Lab and AB-650 practice. This is video 4 of the 5-part AB-650 practice set with 23 questions on Microsoft 365 Copilot readiness and experiences. Work each scenario as an administrator. Identify the requirement, choose the documented mechanism, and keep scope and governance boundaries visible. You will hear every question and every answer option. After the cue, lock in your answer. There are 3 full seconds of silence. Then the correct selection appears before a source-faithful explanation and a transferable exam clue. Pause whenever you need more time, especially on multi-select questions. Question 1. A pilot group has Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses and can sign in to the Microsoft 365 desktop apps, but the expected in-app Copilot experiences are not delivered. A configuration report shows that every pilot device uses semi-annual enterprise channel. Which change directly addresses the documented deployment gate? Answer A. Purchase an additional Copilot license for every already licensed pilot user. Answer B. Wait 7 days for Viva Insights data processing before changing the update channel. Answer C. Use the Copilot Dashboard to make the client feature appear. Answer D. Move the pilot devices from semi-annual enterprise channel to a supported Microsoft 365 apps update channel. Answer E. Clean up unused SharePoint sites as the direct client delivery fix. Lock in your answer. D is correct. Move the pilot devices from semi-annual enterprise channel to a supported Microsoft 365 apps update channel. Microsoft 365 Copilot follows the Microsoft 365 apps deployment and update model and is available in all update channels except semi-annual enterprise channel. Moving the pilot to a supported channel directly removes the documented in-app delivery gate. Question 2. A tenant's Copilot pilot is working in the Microsoft 365 apps. Leadership now wants a baseline for deployment readiness, and later wants to track adoption and impact. One Copilot license that includes the Viva Insights service plan was assigned 2 days ago, but the Copilot dashboard still contains little data. What should the administrator do? Answer A. Move the working pilot to a different Microsoft 365 apps update channel to populate the dashboard. Answer B. Assign 50 Viva Insights licenses because one qualifying Copilot license cannot start data processing. Answer C. Use the Copilot dashboard for the baseline and allow up to 7 days after license assignment for data processing. Answer D. Conclude immediately that the tenant is not ready because the dashboard is sparse after 2 days. Answer E. Use only a client update report as the baseline for readiness, adoption, and impact. Lock in your answer. Focus on this requirement. Use Copilot dashboard evidence to assess organizational readiness and establish a deployment or adoption baseline. C is correct. Use the Copilot dashboard for the baseline and allow up to 7 days after license assignment for data processing. The Microsoft Copilot dashboard provides actionable insights for deployment readiness, adoption, and impact. One assigned Copilot license that includes the Viva Insights service plan is sufficient for data processing to begin, and processing can take up to 7 days after assignment, so sparse data after 2 days is not yet evidence of a readiness failure. Question 3. A tenant has 32 assigned Viva Insights licenses and no assigned Copilot licenses. The administrator needs Copilot dashboard data processing to start. Which 2 changes would each independently satisfy a documented license assignment threshold for starting data processing? Answer A. Assign at least 1 Copilot license that includes the Viva Insights service plan. Answer B. Export day-level metrics before meeting either license assignment threshold. Answer C. Move all Microsoft 365 apps devices to a supported Copilot update channel. Answer D. Keep the assignments unchanged and wait 7 days. Answer E. Increase the number of assigned Viva Insights licenses to at least 50. Lock in your answer. Copilot Dashboard data processing starts when either of two assignment thresholds is met: at least 50 assigned Viva Insights licenses, or at least one assigned Copilot license that includes the Viva Insights service plan. Raising the current Viva Insights assignments to 50, or assigning one qualifying Copilot license, would therefore each independently satisfy the prerequisite. Therefore, A and E are correct. A. Assign at least one Copilot license that includes the Viva Insights service plan. E. Increase the number of assigned Viva Insights licenses to at least 50. Question 4. An audit finds that newly created OneDrive sharing links default to an access role that allows recipients to modify files. Most recipients only need to consume the content, but users must retain the ability to deliberately select a different role when collaboration requires it. Which tenant-level sharing default should the administrator configure? Answer A. Make people with existing access the default sharing link type. Answer B. Set the default sharing link role to Review. Answer C. Set the default sharing link role to View. Answer D. Set the default sharing link scope to Specific People. Lock in your answer. C is correct. Set the default sharing link role to View. Configure the OneDrive default sharing link role as View. Microsoft documents OneDrive default share link role as the control for the role applied by default and defines View as view-only permissions. This changes the starting permission without preventing a user from deliberately selecting another role when collaboration requires it. That boundary rules out controls aimed at a different layer. Question 5. A legal team can open a set of protected documents, and the intended SharePoint permissions are correct. But Microsoft 365 Copilot does not use the documents for grounding. The documents use Legacy Information Rights Management, IRM. The organization must preserve protection intent while resolving the Copilot data readiness barrier caused by Legacy Information Rights Management. What should the administrator implement? Answer A. Use Microsoft Purview sensitivity labeling for the documents, instead of relying on legacy IRM protection. Answer B. Create a DLP policy, even though no transfer or activity enforcement requirement is present. Answer C. Remove all protection from the documents so that Copilot can use them. Answer D. Apply retention labels as a substitute for document protection and grounding compatibility. Answer E. Restrict SharePoint sharing further even though intended access and permissions are already correct. Lock in your answer. Start with the requested control plane. A is correct. Use Microsoft Purview sensitivity labeling for the documents instead of relying on legacy IRM protection. Documents protected with legacy IRM are not used in Copilot grounding. Microsoft identifies sensitivity labeling in Purview as the protection approach to use for these documents, so that the organization can protect them and reduce oversharing without continuing to depend on the incompatible legacy IRM mechanism. Question 6. A company is reviewing the impact of a proposed tenant-level SharePoint sharing policy change before enabling Microsoft 365 Copilot. The change would restrict external sharing, link types, and default permissions. The OneDrive team asks how the change would affect its service and Copilot. Which two statements should the administrator provide? Answer A. The controls can change what OneDrive content Copilot can surface in responses. Answer B. The policy change will make every legacy IRM-protected document available for Copilot grounding. Answer C. Copilot will ignore users' existing OneDrive permissions after the policy change. Answer D. The tenant-level SharePoint sharing policies also apply to OneDrive because OneDrive uses SharePoint Online as its underlying platform. Answer E. The policies affect SharePoint sites only. OneDrive requires an unrelated tenant policy. Lock in your answer. OneDrive is built on SharePoint Online, so tenant-level SharePoint sharing controls also govern OneDrive. Because Copilot accesses OneDrive files within each user's existing permissions, changes to sharing exposure can change which files Copilot can surface. The sharing policy change does not make Copilot bypass permissions or make legacy IRM content usable for grounding. The best responses are A and D. A. The controls can change what OneDrive content Copilot can surface in responses. D. The tenant-level SharePoint sharing policies also apply to OneDrive, because OneDrive uses SharePoint Online as its underlying platform. Question 7. A regulated finance group must continue using Microsoft 365 Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, but neither experience may use public web search for that group. Other departments should retain their current web search behavior. What should the administrator configure? Answer A. Block the Copilot app for the finance group. Answer B. Ask each finance user to turn off the web content toggle and leave the admin policy unchanged. Answer C. Remove all curated bookmarks from Copilot Search for the finance group. Answer D. Assign the Allow Web Search in Copilot policy to the finance group and turn web search off. Lock in your answer. D is correct. Assign the Allow Web Search in Copilot policy to the finance group and turn web search off. The Allow Web Search in Copilot policy is the primary administrative control for web search. It can be assigned to users or groups and applies to both Microsoft 365 Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. So targeting the finance group meets the requirement without removing Copilot access. Question 8. An administrator currently permits web search for a research group. A user in that group does not want real-time web content included in Copilot responses. Later, the administrator turns off web search for the group. Which two statements describe the supported behavior? Answer A. The user must be assigned a different Copilot license before the web content toggle can be changed. Answer B. While the admin policy permits web search, the user can turn off the web content toggle to exclude real-time web content. Answer C. After the administrator turns off web search, the web content toggle is off and dimmed, and the user cannot turn it on. Answer D. The user can override the disabled admin policy by turning on the web content toggle. Answer E. Turning off the web content toggle changes the group's Allow Web Search in Copilot policy assignment. Lock in your answer. Focus on this requirement. Determine whether a user can change the web content preference after the governing admin policy is applied. B and C are correct. B. While the admin policy permits web search, the user can turn off the web content toggle to exclude real-time web content. C. After the administrator turns off web search, the web content toggle is off and dimmed, and the user cannot turn it on. The web content toggle is a user control for including real-time web content when the governing admin policy permits that capability. If the administrator turns off web search, the toggle is forced off and dimmed, and users cannot override the policy. Question 9. A company is validating that one centrally managed control can enforce the same no web search requirement for a project group in both Microsoft 365 Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. Which validation result is accurate? Answer A. Turning off the Allow Web Search in Copilot policy for the group governs web search in both experiences. Answer B. Each user must disable web content separately because no admin control spans both experiences. Answer C. A separate web search policy must be configured for each of the two experiences. Answer D. Publishing a Copilot Search acronym disables web search in both experiences. Lock in your answer. The Allow Web Search in Copilot policy applies to both Microsoft 365 Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. A group-scoped policy, therefore, provides one administrative control path for the same web search requirement across the two experiences. Therefore, A is correct. Turning off the Allow Web Search in Copilot policy for the group governs web search in both experiences. Question 10. Two users select the Search module. One user has an eligible Microsoft 365 Copilot license and sees Copilot Search. The other user does not have an eligible license and sees Microsoft Search. No custom search content is required. What should the administrator conclude? Answer A. The administrator must create a connector before either user can access Copilot Search. Answer B. The administrator must enable web search for the second user. Answer C. License eligibility explains both experiences. No setup action is required. Answer D. The administrator must publish an acronym to replace Microsoft Search with Copilot Search. Lock in your answer. C is correct. License eligibility explains both experiences. No setup action is required. Copilot Search does not require an administrator setup action for access. An eligible Microsoft 365 Copilot license provides Copilot Search from the Search module. A user without an eligible license receives the Microsoft Search experience instead. That boundary rules out controls aimed at a different layer. Question 11. Users already access Copilot Search successfully. An administrator adds a new internal acronym in draft state, so subject matter experts can review it. After review is complete, users report that the acronym still does not appear in results. What should the administrator do? Answer A. Leave the acronym in draft and wait for Copilot Search to publish it automatically. Answer B. Move the acronym to the published state. Answer C. Assign every user another eligible Copilot license. Answer D. Create a connector solely to make the draft acronym visible. Answer E. Turn on the Allow Web Search in Copilot policy. Lock in your answer. Start with the requested control plane. B is correct. Move the acronym to the published state. Acronyms in draft state do not appear in Copilot Search results. After review, the administrator must move the acronym to published state to make it visible. Question 12. A company wants administrators to retain their existing admin roles, but not use Microsoft 365 Copilot in the Microsoft 365, Exchange, SharePoint, or Teams admin centers. The company also wants employees to be able to purchase a Microsoft 365 Copilot license without admin approval. Which two tenant setting states meet the requirements? Answer A. Restrict the setting that permits users to purchase a Microsoft 365 Copilot license without admin approval. Answer B. Remove the administrator's admin roles. Answer C. Restrict the setting that allows admins to access Microsoft 365 Copilot in admin centers. Answer D. Allow the setting that permits users to purchase a Microsoft 365 Copilot license without admin approval. Answer E. Allow the image generation scenario for all users. Lock in your answer. Microsoft 365 provides separate tenant settings for Copilot access in named admin centers and for self-service license purchases. Restricting the former meets the admin center requirement without changing admin roles, while allowing the latter permits purchases without approval. The best responses are C and D. C. Restrict the setting that allows admins to access Microsoft 365 Copilot in admin centers. D. Allow the setting that permits users to purchase a Microsoft 365 Copilot license without admin approval. Question 13. A tenant does not allow the Copilot image generation scenario. During validation, testers use PowerPoint and Copilot Chat. Which two outcomes are consistent with this state? Answer A. In PowerPoint, Copilot can still create, design, and edit new images. Answer B. The denied image generation state automatically prevents admins from using Copilot in admin centers. Answer C. In Copilot Chat, Copilot does not generate new images and does not return stock or brand images. Answer D. In PowerPoint, Copilot can respond with stock or brand images instead of generating a new image. Answer E. In Copilot Chat, Copilot returns stock or brand images whenever generation is denied. Lock in your answer. C and D are correct. C. In Copilot Chat, Copilot does not generate new images and does not return stock or brand images. D. In PowerPoint, Copilot can respond with stock or brand images instead of generating a new image. When image generation is not allowed, Copilot does not generate images. PowerPoint can provide stock or brand images as a fallback, but Copilot Chat neither generates new images nor returns stock or brand images. Question 14. All employees already have access to Copilot Chat. The help desk wants Copilot Chat to appear consistently in the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, Outlook, and Teams, so users do not have to find it in an app store. No access restriction is required. What should the administrator configure? Answer A. Block Copilot through integrated apps. Answer B. Set pinning to pin Copilot Chat in Microsoft 365 apps. Answer C. Turn off the Allow Web Search in Copilot policy. Answer D. Set pinning to Do Not Pin Copilot Chat in Microsoft 365 apps. Lock in your answer. Focus on this requirement. Use the pinning control when the requirement is consistent Copilot Chat discoverability in Microsoft 365 navigation, not denial of service access. B is correct. Set pinning to pin Copilot Chat in Microsoft 365 apps. Pin Copilot Chat in Microsoft 365 apps is the appropriate discoverability control for Outlook and Teams. As of January 28, 2026, the pinning setting no longer governs navigation in the Microsoft 365 Copilot app for any tenant location. Copilot Chat remains visible there. Setting pin therefore satisfies the Outlook and Teams placement requirement without turning discoverability into an access restriction. Question 15. A company wants to prevent a contractor group from accessing Copilot while allowing employees to retain access. The restriction must cover the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, Teams, Outlook, and Copilot Chat on the web. Which two statements describe the appropriate implementation? Answer A. Turn off web search for the contractor group. This removes Copilot access from all required surfaces. Answer B. Integrated apps blocking covers Copilot in the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, Teams, Outlook, and Copilot Chat on the web. Answer C. Use integrated apps to configure Copilot availability or blocking for the contractor group. Answer D. Integrated apps can control Copilot only for the entire tenant, not for specific users or groups. Answer E. Set Copilot Chat to Do Not Pin. This alone prevents contractors from acquiring or accessing it. Lock in your answer. Integrated apps can manage Copilot availability or blocking for specific users or groups, as well as tenant-wide. Its blocking scope includes the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, Teams, Outlook, and Copilot Chat on the web. Unpinning changes placement, but does not itself prevent acquisition. And the web search policy does not remove Copilot access. Therefore, B and C are correct. B. Integrated apps blocking covers Copilot in the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, Teams, Outlook, and Copilot Chat on the web. C. Use integrated apps to configure Copilot availability or blocking for the contractor group. Question 16. An organization whose tenant is outside the European Economic Area and Switzerland does not want Copilot Chat pinned in Teams or Outlook. However, every employee must remain able to obtain the Copilot app from the App Store. Which two administrative choices meet both requirements? Answer A. In integrated apps, allow only a designated pilot group to install the Copilot app. Answer B. Set Copilot Chat to pin in Microsoft 365 apps. Answer C. block the Copilot app through integrated apps for all users. Answer D. Set Copilot Chat to Do Not Pin in Microsoft 365 apps. Answer E. In integrated apps, allow all users in the organization to install the Copilot app. Lock in your answer. D and E are correct. D. Set Copilot Chat to Do Not Pin in Microsoft 365 apps. E. In integrated apps, allow all users in the organization to install the Copilot app. For tenants outside the European Economic Area and Switzerland, the pinning setting no longer governs the Microsoft 365 Copilot app as of January 28, 2026. So this requirement is limited to Teams and Outlook. Set Copilot Chat to Do Not Pin for those governed surfaces. In integrated apps, allowing all users in the organization to install the Copilot app preserves App Store acquisition for every employee. That boundary rules out controls aimed at a different layer. Question 17. Users can find Cowork in the app and submit access requests, but they still cannot use Cowork. The organization has approved the service for production use and now wants to satisfy the prerequisite that makes Cowork accessible. What should the administrator do? Answer A. Enable usage-based billing for Cowork. Answer B. Turn on the Cowork browsing tenant setting. Answer C. Make Cowork undiscoverable, and then make it discoverable again. Answer D. Keep Cowork discoverable and approve each in-app request without enabling billing. Lock in your answer. Start with the requested control plane. A is correct. Enable usage-based billing for Cowork. Usage-based billing is the access prerequisite for Cowork. Discoverability without billing can expose Cowork and let users submit access requests, but that visible request path does not itself make the service usable. Question 18. A company permits employees to use Cowork, but prohibits Cowork from performing browser tasks anywhere in the organization. Other Cowork capabilities must remain available. Which setting should an administrator change? Answer A. Keep Cowork discoverable, but deny every access request submitted in the app. Answer B. Disable usage-based billing for Cowork. Answer C. Turn off the Cowork browsing tenant setting. Answer D. Make Cowork undiscoverable to end users. Lock in your answer. The Cowork browsing tenant setting turns browser use on or off for the organization. Turning off that capability-specific setting meets the browser prohibition without removing the billing prerequisite that supports access to Cowork itself. The best response is C. Turn off the Cowork browsing tenant setting. Question 19. A third-party AI provider is enabled for Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Studio. Only members of an existing Microsoft Entra security group may use the provider, and access must follow group membership changes without assigning individual models. What should an administrator configure? Answer A. Assign the provider separately to each current member as an individual user. Answer B. Set the provider access choice to no users. Answer C. Assign permissions independently for each model offered by the provider. Answer D. Assign permission for the AI provider to the approved Microsoft Entra security group. Lock in your answer. D is correct. Assign permission for the AI provider to the approved Microsoft Entra security group. Third-party AI provider access can be assigned to specific users or Microsoft Entra security groups, and the assignment boundary is the provider rather than an individual AI model. Assigning the provider to the existing group preserves access for approved identities and follows group membership. Question 20. A compliance directive requires that no user in the tenant can access OpenAI-operated models through Microsoft 365 Copilot experiences. The administrator must enforce the restriction at the provider access boundary. Which action should the administrator take? Answer A. Leave the provider enabled and remove individual user assignments as users are discovered. Answer B. Under the setting that chooses which users can access OpenAI-operated models, select No Users and save. Answer C. Remove access separately from each model exposed by the provider. Answer D. Assign provider access only to a Microsoft Entra compliance group. Lock in your answer. Focus on this requirement. Disable OpenAI-operated models for all users through the Microsoft 365 AI subprocessor provider setting. B is correct. Under the setting that chooses which users can access OpenAI-operated models, select No Users and save. The documented tenant-wide action for OpenAI-operated models is to choose No Users in the Provider User Access setting and save. This enforces the zero-user requirement at the provider boundary instead of attempting model-by-model or incremental user cleanup. Question 21. A tenant cannot review each newly released default federated Copilot connector before it appears. Administrators therefore require current and future default federated connectors to start unavailable. One connector has completed review and must remain available as an exception. Which two actions should the administrators take? Answer A. Disable each currently listed connector individually while leaving the tenant toggle enabled. Answer B. Disable the tenant toggle and leave every connector in the disabled state. Answer C. Use staged rollout on the approved connector while leaving the tenant toggle enabled for all default connectors. Answer D. Selectively enable the approved connector while the global disable setting remains active. Answer E. Disable the tenant toggle for default federated connectors. Lock in your answer. Disabling the tenant toggle establishes the default disabled posture and causes future federated connectors to appear disabled. Microsoft 365 also supports selectively enabling a specific connector while the global disable setting remains active, which creates the required approved exception. Therefore, D and E are correct. D. Selectively enable the approved connector while the global disable setting remains active. E. Disable the tenant toggle for default federated connectors. Question 22. An enabled federated connector has passed technical validation. During a pilot, the connector must be available only to members of a designated Microsoft Entra security group. The organization does not want to change the tenant-wide default for other connectors. What should an administrator configure for this connector? Answer A. Enable the tenant toggle so that the connector follows default rollout behavior. Answer B. Disable the tenant toggle for federated connectors. Answer C. Selectively enable the connector while leaving staged rollout unconfigured. Answer D. Choose Add Staging in the connector's staged rollout column and specify the pilot group. Lock in your answer. D is correct. Choose Add Staging in the connector's staged rollout column and specify the pilot group. Staged rollout is the connector-specific control that limits availability to selected Microsoft Entra ID groups. Adding staging for the validated connector creates the required pilot audience without changing the tenant-wide default for other connectors. That boundary rules out controls aimed at a different layer. Question 23. A tenant keeps the global federated connector toggle disabled. The finance connector is the only approved exception, and even that connector must be available only to the Finance Pilot Microsoft Entra group. Which two connector-level actions create this layered exception without enabling default rollout for the tenant? Answer A. Selectively enable the finance connector while the global disable setting remains active. Answer B. Add staging for the finance connector and specify the finance pilot group. Answer C. Selectively enable the finance connector for the organization and leave staged rollout unconfigured. Answer D. Rely on future connectors to follow default rollout behavior. Answer E. Enable the tenant toggle before configuring the finance connector. Lock in your answer. Start with the requested control plane. A and B are correct. A. Selectively enable the finance connector while the global disable setting remains active. B. Add staging for the finance connector and specify the finance pilot group. A specific connector can be selectively enabled while the global disable setting remains active. Staged rollout then limits that enabled connector's availability to specified Microsoft Entra groups. Together, these connector-level actions produce a group-bounded exception while preserving the disabled tenant default. You have completed 23 questions on Microsoft 365 Copilot Readiness and Experiences. You practice separating readiness evidence from deployment controls, matching each administrative surface to its job, and preserving the boundary between a tenant default and a scoped exception. Keep using the clue in the requirement to eliminate controls that operate at the wrong layer. Thanks for practicing AB-650 with WebLizard Labs and WebLizard Cert Lab. You have finished video 4 of the 5-part AB-650 practice set. Continue through the series when you are ready and revisit any question where the control plane, audience, or governance boundary was not immediately clear.